Good evening. On behalf of the New York Wine and Grape Foundation, we welcome you to the Classic Wine Awards ceremony, announcing the winners of the 36th New York Wine Classic Competition. Tonight's event will reveal and celebrate the best in category winners, as well as the prestigious Governor's Cup Best Wine and Winery of the Year, Best Overall Showing by a Winery. You will also learn more about New York Wine and Grape Foundation's ongoing partnership with the Beverage Testing Institute, who judged over 600 wines entered into the competition from 96 wineries across the state. While we wait for everyone to get logged in, we would like to review a few logistical details. If you find yourself with streaming issues, please limit other internet users in your office or household. You may wish to close all other open browsers, or you may also find it helpful to log out and log back in with Firefox or Chrome. We have two forms of communication for today's webinar, the chat and Q&A section. The chat section is an informal way for you to communicate with other attendees. Please be sure to select all panelists and attendees in the drop-down To field, as it can default to panelists only. Today's webinar is being recorded and streamed to Facebook Live. To begin today's webinar, I would like to introduce Sam Filler, Executive Director of the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. Sam, I hand the mic to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 36th New York Wine Classic, an event created and hosted annually by the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. It is our mission to promote the world-class image of New York grapes and wines from our diverse regions, and the New York Classic has done that for many decades now. I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, Commissioner Ball of the Department of Agriculture and Markets of New York State. Commissioner Ball and I have worked together since his appointment in 2014. During my time at Empire State Development, I supported his agency's work in Taste New York and the New York State Grown and Certified initiatives. I can attest to his firm support of the New York grape and wine industry. Commissioner Ball is a native of New York who has made a living in agriculture his entire life. We're fortunate to have such a forward-thinking and effective commissioner in New York. But more importantly, he is a genuinely kind and good person, and I think he enjoys a good New York wine from time to time. Commissioner Ball.
Thank you, Sam, and good evening. I'm honored to join you virtually today to help honor the best of New York's wine and grape industry at the 36th Annual New York Wine Classic. This event is a celebration of New York State's winemakers who continue to set themselves apart and produce some of the very best wines in the world. In fact, New York ranks fourth in the United States in the number of wineries, with nearly 500 wineries and farm wineries in all corners of the state. And we're number 3 in terms of total wine production, making wine a major part of New York's agricultural economy. With the rising quality of our wines and interest at an all-time high, New York is gaining fast recognition across the globe as a premier winemaking region. That's really something to be proud of. Through programs like Taste New York and the New York State Grown and Certified program, we at the department and the state work hard to make sure that our wineries are supported and promoted so that they can continue to thrive. I'm excited to know that despite the challenges of the past 2 years, the industry is continuing to succeed, and we have even more to look forward to. I send my sincere congratulations to the winners of the New York State Wine Classic today, and to all the wineries who entered this most prestigious competition. Thank you.
Commissioner Ball. And now I'd like to introduce the next speaker. Classic. It's often been called the Oscars of New York wine. The New York Wine Classic is open to all New York wineries, and categories include vinifera and hybrid wines. The contest also includes categories for wines made from Labrusca grapes, other fruits, and honey. Judging for the New York Wine Classic took place from April 15th through June 15th, and it included 693 entries from 101 wineries from across the state. a total of 7 platinum, 234 gold, 324 silver. Judge, you're asking yourself? Well, in the past, we scored the wines with a live gathering of judges who came from all across the country and the world. And in 2021, for many reasons, the New York Wine and Grape Foundation explored a partnership with the Beverage Testing Institute, and it worked out very well. So for the second year in a row, the New York Wine and Grape Foundation has partnered with them to judge wines submitted from across New York State. Scores were awarded by BTI's trained sensory panel, comprised of beverage directors, sommeliers, top bartenders, retail buyers, and educators. So I'm pleased to introduce Gerald O'Kennard. He's the director at the Beverage Testing Institute to talk more about how their process works. Gerald, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor. I'd like to talk just a little bit about our process. All of the wines were tasted here in our tasting lab in Chicago, as Sam mentioned, by trained trade panelists who are predominantly buyers, but also journalists and writers that cover the wine beat. We tasted all 693 wines in the course of 27 days. That works out to be about 26 wines a day, more or less. And we do that so we can eliminate palate fatigue and produce more consistent results. We use our own proprietary software that is used by the panelists to assess the qualitative merits of the wine. They rank them on a scale that's very similar to the quartermaster scale that's used in product testing. We're a member of the American Society of Testing Materials, and so all of our methodologies conform to those scientific principles and standards. And it was a real pleasure to discover so many great wines, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, of course, before the announcements, but there's some truly world-class wines here. And our panels, they taste them blind, but then after the evaluations, they do see what the brands are. We swear them to secrecy, but just lots of oohs and ahs and just lots of very interesting discussions about these fantastic wines that you're going to hear about more today. And just to let you know that the panels really only knew the category, the varietal breakdown, the vintage, and that it was a New York appellated wine. They did not know anything about price, brand, so they really came just with the bare bones of information to make the assessment. And we're doing our best to eliminate any kind of bias by limiting the information. And I think the results speak for themselves. There's some tremendous wines here. Thank you.
Thanks, Gerald. And I am excited to introduce our host for the evening. It's an absolute honor to have Karen MacNeil, author of the Wine Bible and the creator of the WineSpeed newsletter. She's here to host as we unveil the big winners of the New York Wine Classic. There's no doubt the New York wines have been attracting increased attention over the last few years, but as Karen notes, she says, the top wines in New York State are still the best kept secrets in the US. And she further says they should absolutely be better known across the country. And Karen, we couldn't agree with you more. The New York Wine Classic will give you all that opportunity tonight. And Karen, we're delighted to welcome you to New York virtually to help everyone experience the best of what we have to offer. Thank you again for being with us. And Karen, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's just a great pleasure to be here. And I have a list of all the winners. It's super exciting. So, I want to begin by saying often the words New York evoke, towering images of skyscrapers and one of the world's most powerful cities. But there's another New York as well, and that's the New York of farmland and cornfields and potato barns and beautiful blue icy lakes and vineyards. When in our world, as everyone who is watching knows, when we think of New York, we appreciate how magnificently rural it really is. So today we will honor that part of New York. And I want to say from the beginning that even though I'm coming to you from the Napa Valley, I began my career in New York, and I have a great appreciation for the wines of New York State. And I do know and do believe that they are as yet underappreciated, but we're going to fix that a little bit starting now. So let's begin. I would like to show everyone the Best in Class Awards. And these are wines made in categories where there were at least 7 wines of that type that were entered. You see them coming up on your screen right now. Here they are. They're made in many different categories, testament to the fact that New York State makes so many varied types and styles of wine. So I'll let everyone take a look as we scroll through these really fascinating and delicious wines. All right, and now it's time to begin our Best of Category Awards. These are, of course, the main categories of wine. And we'll start with, of course, our first category is Best Sparkling Wine. And the winner, hold your applause, everyone out there. The winner is the Dr. Constantine Frank Blanc de Blanc 2017 from the Finger Lakes. You know, the late Constantine Frank is, of course, a New York legend, a Ukrainian PhD who came as a poor immigrant to the United States, to New York in the 1950s, and proved that vinifera varieties would do extremely well in New York State. With us is Fred Frank, the grandson of Constantine Frank. Fred, congratulations. Please give us a few words about your grandfather and about this wine.
Sure. Thank you so much, Karen. It's a real honor, and it's a great family tradition. I'm the 3rd generation, and I'm here with my wife, Mary Claire, and our daughter, Megan, is the 4th generation. And we owe it all to Constantine. He persevered and showed that vinifera could be grown in New York. And my dad, Willie, proved that premium sparkling wines could be made in our cool climate, growing the classic champagne grapes, namely Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. This particular wine is 100% Chardonnay, and it's a 2017 vintage, so it's been aged on the lees for a number of years to pick up that wonderful complexity from the aging process.
It's a wonderful wine. I had the pleasure of tasting it just the other night, and I found it just very precise. You can really taste the cool climate of New York, one of New York's, of course, great assets. So Fred, congratulations again to the whole family. And yeah, maybe at the end of our awards, I'll go and see if I can have another glass because it was so delicious last night. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And next up, our next category is, of course, Best White Wine. And the winner is the Weiss Winzer Select Riesling A 2020 from the Weiss family, specifically Peter Weiss and Ashley Weiss. Peter and Ashley, are you there?
We're here.
Hi, Karen.
There you are. Okay, great to see you both. Peter, you were born in Germany. Ashley was born right in the Finger Lakes. Now you're married, work together, and started winery. That is like the perfect marriage scenario. So good for you. And this is a really unusual wine. I loved tasting it last night. It reminded me truly of German Auschleses, and I'm wondering what the A stands for. Does it stand for that?
Yes, it does stand for that. Since yeah, I'm from the Mosel River and cannot really call it Auslese, so we had to come up with some way to yeah, show the traditional more like quality level. So we have a K, but this one here is our A for Auslese.
Yes, and for anyone who, by the way, doesn't know what an Auslese is, it's one of, or an Auslese style wine, like the Weisses. It is one of the most hedonistic Rieslings you could possibly have. I was once told that no Sunday afternoon is really complete unless you sort of lay on the hammock somewhere and drink a really cool glass of Auslese. So every Sunday, I want people to buy this wine and give it a try because it's an absolutely fantastic wine. And, you know, I'll also say that while the wine is sweet, it has a good degree of sweetness. Isn't it true, would you say, that the incredible cool climate of New York gives the wine enough bracing acidity so it doesn't seem overly sweet?
Yeah, so here's a big part of botrytis in there. So it's not just the botrytis evaporates the water, so it's concentrates also the acidity, but also all the ingredients. And this particular Vineyards Select A actually was from 2 pickings from 1 vineyard, and so I needed something special for we have a 22-old month. So we had a son in 2020. So I wanted to make some dessert wine. And this one here was the A is actually the first picking. So Auslese style is a great wine, but the last picking was a Noble Select Riesling that hasn't we just released and actually got 95 plus points from Parker. So like pretty much from that specific vineyard, we got 2 great wines.
Well, congratulations. And actually, kind of double congratulations are in order because stay right on the screen with us. The next category is Best Pink Wine, and you both won that too for your dry rosé, which is just a knockout. Congratulations. This is your 2021 Weiss Dry Rosé. And Ashley, I know you're not, there's always a winemaker and a person who does everything else. And I'm sure you're the person who does everything else. So tell us why you love this wine and what it tastes like.
For me, dry rosé is always one of my favorites every vintage. I think he makes it for me specifically because I swear it's always my favorite out of the whole lineup. And you're right, I do lean more on the marketing side. So I always adhere to Peter for all of the wine questions, but really it's just light, it's fresh. I can drink it every day. It's got that nice bright acidity. So for me, you know, Peter's favorite word on this one is crushable. And I would definitely say that that's a true statement for this dry rosé.
Wow, who knew that someone born in Germany would know American slang so well? Okay. Well, congratulations to both of you. Both of those styles are really important styles in New York State. And of course, it's summertime. Who doesn't want great white wine and great rosé right now? So congratulations. And well, just bravo again. All right. And we're going to move on to our next category. So our next category is, of course, Best Red. And New York makes a number of reds from Blaufränkisch to Cabernet Franc to Pinot Noir. Tonight's award goes to a rare, unusual hybrid called Léon Milo. This is the 2020 Léon Milo. And on screen here to accept the award is Mel Goldman, who is the owner, and Ben Shearman, who is the winemaker of Léon Milo 2020 from Kuka Lake in the Finger Lakes. Gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you.
So Mel, give us a little, I have to admit that I sometimes say to students of mine, you know, you don't really know a wine until, or you can't really know about baseball until you hit the ball at least 20 times. And you can't know a wine unless you taste at least 20 examples. And you made me want to run out and try and find 20 examples of Léon Milo because this is a very rare hybrid. How did you find it? How did you come upon it?
Well, we're very fortunate that we have a piece of land that Charles Fournier, who was one of the pioneers in the Finger Lakes, a Frenchman from Champagne who was brought here in the late 30s, and he planted both an experimental vinifera plot and an experimental hybrid plot. and we have the hybrid plot. And this was about 1.25 acres, or 1.25 acres, I guess. And we took cuttings from them and planted it further. We owe a lot to him. He is deceased, and we owe a lot to a fellow and 2 people in the vineyard. One of whom is deceased, and it was a wonderful Hammond's Portian Ray Hughes, who said to me back in about 2004, he said, "Mal, Charles Fournier made the best red wine in the Finger Lakes with this grape. Don't sell the grapes, make wine with them." And we followed, and we never turned back. And in fact, in 2010, we won the same award. It was a very similar season. But perhaps you want to hear from Ben.
Absolutely.
Ben, by the way, is with Katie, our cellar master there.
Yes, and Katie,
And-
I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were jumping on as well. Katie, the cellar master there.
But
Katie,
Ben can tell you what he did differently in 2020, because I think he did some very special things. There are 2 clones, by the way, that Charles Fournier planted. And one of those clones we can't find anywhere else. And I think that accounts for the difference in our Leon Milo compared to part of the difference compared to a lot of others. But the rest of it, the winemaker can explain.
Well, Ben, let me start with you then. Tell us, you couldn't possibly have had any experience with this grape before you started making this wine. Describe its flavor for us.
Yeah, so didn't even know Leon Mio existed until I came to the Finger Lakes. And it was actually the first wine that the first grapes I got my hands on when I came here in August 2020. And the impression that I had initially that it had a similar flavor profile to a Merlot, actually. So a lot of plums and ripe black cherries and a lot of rich concentration. And that's what kind of really excited me about that grape varietal, that there was a lot of opportunity to approach this grape in a way that I approached different varietals when I worked in Bordeaux and Napa.
Yeah. And Katie, let's get your take on it. What do you love about the grape?
It's definitely unique in that it's got a lot more acid than your typical, red wine vinifera.
We can't hear you too well, Katie. Can you speak up a bit?
It's definitely far more acidic than your typical vinifera red wine, but it's got this almost bitter dark chocolate character to it, like a dark cocoa kind of 75 or greater percent bitter chocolate. So it's got that bright acidic kind of pastry thing going on that I think is one of the reasons people like it so much. It's definitely has a bit of a cult following among our guests here at the winery.
Cult following is a great term, and we know how important acidity is even in red wines, right? Because it provides a kind of freshness, and the bitterness that you're describing, we sometimes around this office call it noble bitterness, because it's what makes espresso exciting, or as you point out, dark chocolate exciting. So congratulations, the 3 of you. It's an unusual and fabulous wine. And for everyone who's watching, I really encourage you. You can get all of these wines, by the way, at each winery's winery or on their website. I encourage everyone to give this Leon Milo a real try, because I think you'll find it to be very delicious. So thank you, all 3 of you. And we're moving on to the next award.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go to, as you can imagine, what the next award is going to be, Best Dessert Wine. And, it's hard to make a great dessert wine because it has to be sweet, but not saccharine and not candied. It has to have a through line of freshness to it. Tonight, we have not just one winner, but a tie. We have 2 winners for the best dessert wine. So I'd like to introduce first Tim Benedict, who made the Hazlitt 1852, there you see it, Sherry, Solera Sherry style wine. And we also have with us Roman Roth, who made Wölffer Estate's Diosa Late-Harvest 2020 from Long Island. So the first dessert wine in the winning category is from the Finger Lakes. And Tim, let's go to you first. There you are. So I have to ask because the bottle doesn't say. And when we talked the other day, you wouldn't tell me. I'm going to put you on the spot again. This is a really delicious sherry style wine with all of the complexity and richness and lushness that traditional sherries have. But what grapes is this made from?
Well, thank you, Karen. It's such an honor to be here and to have a Hazlitt wine here in the mix. We've had a history of producing sherries. I've done it quite a while back and to some success, but about 10 years ago when we purchased our Naples facility from Constellation Brands, there was a very long history of sherry production with thousands of barrels on the roof baking in the summer sun, days kind of like what we're having today. And I was very fortunate when we first came there to talk to a few of the old winemakers that had retired and moved on, and some of the cellar hands that were still around, and got a few of the tips and tricks. And one was the selection of the grapes, and it actually has Concord in it.
I am surprised. Wow.
Yep. And the Concord gives it kind of that toffee and caramel character, because there is a little bit of creaminess to Concord at sometimes. The other grape that's in there is Elvira, which is an older grape, but very high acidity. And when that acidity mellows out over many years in the barrels that we use, it really gives some backbone to support that sweetness. The other thing that we learned, that we use a lot of neutral barrels that we've retired from other wines, but what they always used to use was used bourbon barrels. So we mixed a little of that into.
Bourbon never hurt anybody, a little bourbon, you know? But you mentioned the barrels being out in the sun. So this wine is not only made like sherry in a Solera system, but it sounds like it's also made a little bit as Madeira is, that is concentrated by being in warm temperatures.
Yep, it's interesting, the history. There's actually a building at our facility in Naples that is called the Sherry Barn. And it's a very large stucco barn that they had transitioned into after a while. They used to have thousands of barrels on the roof, but there was a lot of loss, and that was kind of hard to take with such a delicious wine to lose that much of it. So they transferred everything into this barn, and they found that it was uninsulated, so it's still baked in the summer, but there was a little less weathering, and they still got the same effect. So when we started, we had our modest little group of barrels. I think there was 15 of them that we put up on the roof for a few years, but we've since learned our lesson and moved, and don't want to waste any to the angels share. So yes. we put them back inside.
Yes, lost by evaporation, you mean, not no one's crawling up there and making off with your barrels.
Not that we know of.
Yeah, but wineries can lose a lot through evaporation. So I'm sure not only just because it's your wine, but it's terrible when you see sort of money evaporating, right? So what a fascinating wine. And I'm so glad that you finally admitted what secret grape varieties are in the Hazlitt wines, the Hazlitt sherry. All right, let's bring on Roman Roth, because as I said, we have a tie for best dessert wine. And Roman, your Diosa Late-Harvest 2020 was a tie with the Hazlitt wine. This is a very, very different wine. The Wölffer Estate is well known on Long Island. But this is, you label it a late harvest wine, but it's almost made like an ice wine with an interesting twist. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, well, it's an honor. I will put on my best Long Island accent for you. Lovely to share this award with Hazlitt as well, as we have a very good working relationship and make our beautiful ciders at East Coast Crush. And well, the Diosa is we make many different wines at Wölffer Estate, but somehow our Diosa takes the cake all the time. It's an ice wine, literally. We don't freeze them on the vines because Long Island is, we're not protected by a valley or something. So you have the northeasterners barreling up the coast, and you would have no grapes left by the time you go down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So we wait, and it works actually very well. We wait as long as possible till every berry is golden and in a perfect ripe condition. And you don't lose basically the best berries to birds, so you don't lose them to storms or to anything, botrytis. So you really wait until they ripe, and then we carefully pick them in 30-pound logs and put them into a freezer box and turn the dial to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And you really capture the ultimate character of Long Island, where we capture the sea breeze, I call it. So it's not just a sticky, which has, I think it has 264 grams sugar per liter. So it's a beautifully dessert wine, but it has, of course, I think 9 and almost 11, 11 grams per liter acidity. So it's dancing on your tongue. My mother used to say you want to have a neck like a giraffe for this wine, so it goes down forever. Oh. And it's a wine. One thing too is with Wölffer, we try to make one of our goals is to make wines with longevity, and the ice wine, the Diosa, can certainly age 50 years and if not longer. So it's we're very proud of this wine, and it's nice to get the award.
Yes, because of course, both acidity and sugar are natural preservatives in wine. So I believe you that it will last or age well for 50 years. And of course, when people talk about acidity, and if you're not a winemaker, you hear 11 grams, what does that mean? Well, champagne, we all know that how fresh and crisp champagne is. Champagne is about 5 to 6 grams of acidity. So 11 grams of acidity and 26.7% sugar is just an outrageous wine when you taste it. It is quite astounding. So thank you again.
Balance.
Yeah, and congratulations to Wölffer Estate for that Diosa Late-Harvest. Just a fabulous wine.
Thank you very much.
So let's see, I want to hand it back to Sam because we have 2 very big and important awards coming up. Sam, take it from there.
Yes, thanks, Karen. So we are now going to present the Governor's Cup Awards, and we have a very special guest who is going to make that announcement, Governor Kathy Hochul of New York. And she is no stranger to the New York Wine Classic. She, in her role as Lieutenant Governor, presented last year as part of our virtual presentation. And when we had in-person activities, I know she's visited many of the tasting rooms of previous winners. So she is a big supporter of the New York wine and grape industry. And she is going to be presenting the Governor's Cup Award. And I will turn it over to her now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Sam, for that introduction. It's truly an honor to once again be part of this amazing event that celebrates the outstanding wineries and winemakers around our state. I know the last 2 years have presented extraordinary challenges for this industry, but you adapted and continue to produce some of the finest wines in the world. From Long Island to the Finger Lakes, New York is now home to nearly 500 wineries, making it the 3rd largest wine producer in the entire country, with more than 28.5 million gallons of wine produced every single year. The wine industry has proved to be a major economic driver for New York State, generating more than $6.65 billion in revenue and supporting nearly 72,000 jobs. And it attracts more than 4.7 million tourists a year, of which I am one of them. The industry continues to grow. As governor, I'm truly proud that New York is finally being recognized as a top wine producer in the country. So I want to thank all of you for making that possible and for all you do to keep the wine industry in New York moving forward. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm honored to announce the winners of this year's top award. And yes, you heard that right, winners plural. This year, the Governor's Cup Best of Show Award was a tie. And the winners are Hazlitt 1852 Vineyards from Hector, New York for their Solera Sherry, and Wölffer Estate Vineyard from Sagaponic, New York for their 2020 Diosa Late-Harvest. Congratulations to them and to all of tonight's winners. And I hope to be personally visiting many of the wineries, vineyards, and tasting rooms very soon. Thank you again to the New York Wine and Grape Foundation for everything you do to promote our state's amazing wineries. Have a great night.
Well, let's bring Tim and Roman back on. How fabulous. Tim, Roman, you've both just won the Governor's Cup Award. How does it feel? Tim, let me start with you.
Well, it's just amazing. I'm speechless, and to be able to share this with a friend and colleague, Roman, congratulations to you for sure.
Very nice.
Roman, how does that feel?
Well, wonderful. That's just what Tim said. I think we've been at it for a long time, and to get this award, it's a great honor for the winery. I mean, the owners, Joey, Mark, Wölffer, our whole team, Max Rowan, our CFO, all the people. There's so much energy going in there. And then when the governor herself gives the award, this is really nice to share, and we're very proud. And it's nice for New York. Very proud of that.
Well, congratulations to both of you, to your entire teams. And I'm so happy that two really beautiful, elegant, deserving dessert wines won the Governor's Cup this year. So congratulations again, gentlemen. Thank you. And we have one last award that we need to give. So let me tell you what that is. And that last award is the Winery of the Year Award. The Winery of the Year is Winery of the Year Award goes to that winery who had the most awards in relationship to the number of entry wines that they submitted. So it's a very prestigious award. It's why we want to end on it. It's hard to be good at a whole lot of things, and not just good, but really great at many different wine styles. This year, 2022, the Winery of the Year is Weiss. Let's bring back on Peter and Ashley. Are you there, Peter and Ashley?
We're here. Thank you, Karen.
Thank
Oh
you.
my goodness.
So honored.
Winery of the Year. Yes, you can kiss each other. Go ahead.
You just missed a very excited reaction from Peter that was off camera, but it was wonderful.
Okay, well, I guess I can't ask about that, but
No. It was his big cheer. He was very excited. We're both very excited.
Yeah.
oh, it's a tremendous honor. It must feel great.
Yes, especially after we're only 5 years in, and what we being honored after 5 years, being Winer of the Year. That's fabulous.
It feels really, really good. Peter is my sentimental one. He gets very choked up, if you will. I know he's so proud, and to be able to call his family and let him know that we've won this, and how much hard work he's put in over the last 5 years.
You too.
We both have, but the wine is amazing, and I think it speaks for itself.
Oh, well, you can feel the energy from the two of you. We wish that we were all there in person to give you a big hug and congratulate you again. It really is an enormous, just an enormous honor, because, people sometimes forget, if you were a chef, right, and you were trying to, I don't know, perfect a roast chicken, you could just roast 500 of them until you got it right. But if you're a winemaker and in 5 years, you get the Winery of the Year Award, that's a pretty big deal. So congratulations again, you two. Everyone is very proud of you. We now expect really even more great things in the future, though.
No
The bar is
pressure.
really high.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
All right. Well, for everyone who has been joining us, thank you for joining us. It has been my great pleasure to give out these awards this year to so many deserving individuals, give out the awards to so many deserving wines and wineries. So again, thank you for joining us. New York makes some really special, fantastic wines, and we hope that this awards ceremony will pique your interest and inspire you to give them a try. So from me and my team, Karen MacNeil, thank you so very much. Thanks for joining us tonight. Cheers.
Thank you, Karen. And thanks to everyone for joining us tonight to celebrate all of the wineries in New York, the best in class winners in each category, winery winners, and of course, the Governor's Cup and Winery of the Year recipients. All of these wines can be found on the winery websites, and we encourage you to try them all for yourself. Thank you again. Be well and good night.